Okay, so it's our final day, day 5. Welcome all the people. Hello, sir. How is everything? So without any further ado, we are exactly on time today. So we have Dr. Ugi with us. So let me share the profile of Dr. Ugi with you. Dr. Ugi was born in Jakarta, Indonesia, and he has gained his PhD in the year 2000 from International Institute of Islamic Thoughts and Civilizations and International University of Malaysia in Islamic Civilization. Up to date, Dr. Ugi has more than 2 decades of experience in academic field. He has a specialization in Islamic finance, and Dr. Ugi has spent around 7 years as a research fellow at International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization. During the time, he was also it was led by his founder director, Dr. Sayyid Muhammad Naqib Al Atas. Then Dr. Sugi has a variety. Means if you look into his H index and his citations, he is one of the very established researchers which I ever know. He has more than 30 articles published in the area of Islamic studies and Islamic economics, and he has published means in the journals from Indonesia, Malaysia, Bahrain, United Kingdom, Turkey. He is also author of 2 books, Kitab al Amwal, and then he's and Isu Centrum. So these are 2 books which he has authored, and his books have been authored also in several other languages. And he is one of the most established professors which our College of Business University of Burani is having. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I present before you Dr. Ugi. He will be taking you with his slide and presentation. He has his own perspective of solving the problem of COVID. So wish you all the best. Happy listening. Dr. Ugi, all yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shad. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Abud Hamid Asawafi, the Vice Chancellor of University of Buraimi, for organizing this international webinar for 1 week. And then to Dr. Ibrahim Rashid, our Dean of University of Buraimi, University of Buraimi College of Business. And of course to Dr. Shad Khan, the organizer and also the moderator of the webinar. And then to the learned previous panelists, Professor Imran Salim, Dr. Anna Rosen Green, Professor Ravinder Rena, Dr. Abdul Hanan Shudri. And of course to ladies and gentlemen from all over the world, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon. So my session is a concluding session, the last day of our webinar, but I'm not going to make a conclusion or summary of all the previous presentations. I would rather talk about specific issues under the topic, of course from different angles. We have listened economic discussion by Professor Imran Salim, Professor Ravinder Rena, and then Professor Abdul Manan. But my role here, I just want to discuss this economic issues from the Islamic economic, which is my specialization. And by the way, this is these ideas of Islamic economics are not necessarily being implemented by Muslim countries, but these are ideas of Islamic economics. You know, because in economics we have various schools of thought, like classical, neoclassical, Keynesian, and then you have Marxist economics, you have also what we call it Islamic economic in this case. So I want to share my specialization about this Islamic economics. Now, I'm trying to move actually the slide. All right. You see, all these economic problems we encounter in this pandemic can be summarized. The immediate economic impact of this pandemic can be summarized with one word in economics. Yeah, we call it recession. Yeah, recession is basically part of the business cycle phenomena when the economic curve is declining. You see, we always observe that economy has a cycle. Okay, you have the peak and you have the trough. Now, when the economy is going to the trough, going down, so the economists call this phenomenon as recessions. Now, as a technical definition of recession, recession is basically negative economic growth for 2 consecutive quarters. Now, this is just a technical definition of it. Yeah, but what is important is, we know the signs, or the phenomena of recessions. In recession, we'll experience productivity declining, unemployment increasing, income decreasing, debt level soaring, more unsold goods, lots of retrenchment, and this will add to more unemployment and so on and so forth, and becoming a kind of vicious cycle. Now, what are the causes of the recessions? Now, according to economists, there are basically 2 types of causes, the internal and also the external. The internal is, they say that it is due to the lack of demand, lack of aggregate demand. And the external is, of course, the exogenous factor, such as pandemic, like what we experience nowadays, war, big natural disasters, and so on and so forth. Now, our recession is basically more on the second one, the external one, all right, due to the pandemic. Now, how normally government try to solve this problem? So the normal way, or according to the Keynesian economic, is the government should spend. Government spending. We learn in macroeconomics, there are components of GDP like C, I, X minus M. C stands for consumption, I stand for investment, and X minus M is export and import, and G stand for government spending. So according to the, what we call it, economists, the way government should deal with the recession is by adding to government spending. So the G must be increased. So this is basically the solution from the economic point of view. Now, if you look at the what we call it, the data, probably I will share this slide to you, and then you can click all these links. So basically, all big countries, like United States, experience recessions. US officially in recession due to COVID-19. This is according to the economists. UK also. China, for example. China coronavirus recession has arrived. India also. Or even the global economy. So basically, we are facing one big economic problem, what we call a recession in short. Now, the solution of government is basically having certain limitations. Why? Because when the government has to spend, we are questioning, we are asking from where government should spend. Where are the resources? So normally government will spend through taxations. So the government will increase the revenue from the tax. But of course, during this recession, it is very difficult because unemployment is increasing. There are a lot of industries being closed. So in order to raise tax is very difficult. Although normally, in the normal situation, the government would increase the tax. Now, another way of getting fund for government spending is through raising debts. Government will issue bond if it is possible. So there are so many countries now issuing bond. Yeah, of course, bond is debt, whether it is internal bond or external bond. Yeah, internal bond means the investors are from the domestic investor. Yeah, external bond, of course, bond which is normally denominated by foreign currency like US or Euro. Yeah, this is called Euro bond sometimes. But again, in order to issue bond, the government should consider the rating. Yeah, if the rating is not good, yeah, then raising bond is very difficult, and it is very expensive also for government. Okay, to raise bonds. Why? Because the government should pay interest later on. Yeah. Now this is one consideration. Another consideration is the government should also consider the debt level, or we call debt to GDP ratio. Of course, this debt to GDP is very important. Now, as has been discussed by earlier presenter, there are a lot of advanced countries, developed countries like US, Japan, yeah, whose debt to GDP ratio is over 100%. Yeah, so this is basically a problem if you want to raise again, okay, the debt. Now, the third way is through borrowing from the international bodies. For example, borrowing from IMF, from the International Monetary Fund. Yeah, and by the way, up to now, it is more than 100 countries have been applying for IMF. Yeah, you can imagine more than half, what we call it, numbers of countries have been applying for financial aid from the IMF due to COVID-19. Now, if a country applies, okay, for financial aid from the IMF, normally IMF will require, okay, this country to do like financial restructuring, and this, of course, will lead to the loss of the sovereignty of a particular country. So this is again another hurdle, okay, to borrow money from the IMF. You can also borrow from the World Bank, but the World Bank normally would need a kind of development project. So all these things, the taxation, raising debt or bond or borrowing, yeah, this is called fiscal measure, yeah, or fiscal policy, part of the fiscal policy. So one of the sources of the government spending is basically through the fiscal policy. Now, fiscal policy are these things, yeah, taxation and also borrowing. There is another way how the government should spend using the monetary policy. Of course, under normal situation, because it is under the recession, the government, for example, should lower interest rate in order to encourage business, okay, to invest, yeah, or yeah, lowering also the reserve ratio, yeah, increasing money supply and doing open market operations. So these are the normal monetary policies normally done by the government. Now, under certain situations, sometimes the conventional and normal monetary policy cannot be done. Some countries would resort to quote-unquote printing money. So the term is rather what we call the quantitative easing, yeah, in which normally the government would buy, okay, the existing bonds or the existing debt instrument by, okay, by printing new money, yeah, whether it is from the secondary market or from the primary market. But of course, printing money will have certain risks. For example, you will have risk of inflation. If the government is too much, yeah, printing money, this would lead into inflation, or it can also lead to the deterioration of the exchange rate, because if you are printing too much, then the supply of money, will be too much. If there is no demand for that particular currency, then the exchange rate, would decline, would experience what we call the depreciations. So all this, whether you are doing it through fiscal policy or through monetary policy, especially under this pandemic, COVID-19, all become dilemmatic, all become problems. I think all the government in the world nowadays are suffering, from this issue. Now, in fact, the role of government in the economy, is the factor behind the emergence of a discipline called macroeconomics or public finance. So macroeconomics and public finance emerge, due to the need of the government role in the market. So government must do something, especially, of course, under the Keynesian economics, after the Great Depression, 1930s. So this is the suggestion from John Maynard Keynes that the government should involve in the economics by applying, their economic policies, whether it is fiscal policy or monetary policy. So this is basically the issue. We know that when we learn economics analysis is based on the market. It's based on the market. That's why we call it, our economy is a market economy. So this is basically the background of the economic analysis. In our assumption of this market, we assume that the market can solve its own economic problems. So that is what we call the invisible hand, the so-called invisible hand. We can solve the problem of production, the problem of consumption, the problem of distribution and exchange. These are the four elements of economics: production, consumption, and also distribution and exchange. However, in reality, although we say that market can solve its own problem, but in reality, market is imperfect. If we learn about the structure of the market, starting from the monopoly from the one extreme to the perfectly competitive market to another extreme, most of the market structure are imperfect. In fact, the perfect competitive market is only in the idealism of the economists. And one of the glaring example of imperfection of the market is the distribution. So the distribution issue is the most obvious one, which cannot be solved by the market alone. Whether the issue of distribution is within the country or international. So we have a problem of this equal distribution of income and wealth, even in the world, for example. That's why there is a movement of 99% even in the West. Why? Because 1% of the top rich people are so dominating the wealth of the world. And this is basically the outcome of the market imperfections. So in this case, we need government. So the government with its public finance and macroeconomic policies come to complement the market. So the market and government should help each other, should go hand in hand in order to solve the economic problem. You can imagine if our situations now, the COVID-19, if it is left only to the market without the help of the government, that will be catastrophic for all over the world. So that's why now you can see that all over the world, government is doing their best, okay, to solve this economic issue. However, we have also a problem with government. We call it government failure. So we have market imperfection and we have government failure. Both are having problems. Market is imperfect. Government also fails. In fact, one of the accusations of the free market economy is by saying that the role of government is, instead of improving the market, improving the efficiency of the market, according to them, the government would add to more inefficiency in the market. So this is, of course, one of the criticism of the government involvement in the market. We can understand actually why government can fail in their economic intervention or their economic policies. There are many factors. Of course, number one, like imperfect informations. Of course, the government doesn't have all the information necessary to tackle this economic problem. Human factor, the governments are also humans with their limitations. Sometimes the policy of government is also influenced by the interests of the pressure groups, for example. Certain group, for example, they want to have their own project. Then the government is influenced by this kind of project. His policy is influenced by this project. Or sometimes because of the political self-interest. You see, the policy is, for example, just for 5-year election or general elections. We know the governments are also politicians coming from different political parties. So they must have certain political interests, in designing, their economic policy. Sometimes these policies are also myopic. It is very short-term, short-term solution without considering what will be the long-term. For example, increasing the debt level is a short-term solution. The future generation, will pay, the debt. They are basically discounting, their futures. So this is one clear example. And then, there is also a kind of evasions, done or committed by people, in exercising the economic policies. For example, like fiscal policy, like taxation. People have tendency to evade or to avoid tax, because naturally, of course, everybody doesn't want to be taxed. So everybody will try to evade this taxation by various ways. And of course, another thing is these economic policies cannot be implemented easily. It has certain costs, cost of administration, cost of enforcement, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the factors which lead to what we call government failures. So market is imperfect, market fails, government also fails. Now, this problem, I call it two-sector economic problem, or the problem of two-sector economics. Actually, our economic analysis is limited only to two sectors: the private sector, the market, and the public sector, government. Always we are moving from these two angles: private, public, market, government, market, government. We know market fails, government also fails. Yeah. So when the market is imperfect and the government fails, as if there is no other solution and other alternative beyond these two. What is the solutions? If market fails and government fails, where else we can go? Yeah. So this is basically the issue. Now, if we are emphasizing too much on the market and bringing or pushing the market into a kind of free market, this will cause economic imbalances. This will cause instability. Yeah, of course, this is the typical, what we call it, example of capitalism. Yeah, the problem of unequal distribution of income, the problem of instability. Yeah, we know even from one of the economic thinkers, Hyman Sminsky. So he has a hypothesis, which he called financial instability hypothesis. So basically, our economic system is inherently unstable. Yeah. In fact, when our economy is stable, that is basically the sign of instability. So, in short, the financial instability hypothesis says that stability is unstable. Now, if the economy is too much stress on the government, then of course we'll have another model of economic system. We have communism and socialism. Yeah, it will lead to authoritarianism, which is against the democracy. Yeah, though the impact on economy is not good either. Yeah, normally this socialist country or communist country are underdeveloped and backwards, of course. Now the ideal one is the combination, of course. The combination of government and market, should be the best. But again, the issue is we have market failure and government failure. Yeah, this always happen in our economy. Now, there's a question here: is there any other alternative beyond these two sectors? Now, this is the role of probably Islamic economics. There is an offer from Islamic economics. So we offer the third sector. So we'll be analyzing economic not only from the two-sector economy, but we add another sector. Yeah, this is the third sector. Now, what is the third sector? The third sector, of course, we call it the Islamic guidance or Islamic teaching. Although apparently this is come from certain religion, but let's see what the benefit the Islamic economic would offer, to the humanity. Although it's probably coming from Islamic teaching, but let's see. So this Islamic teaching, the position of Islamic teaching should be higher than the market and government. So it is higher order than market and government. All right. So the Islamic guidance or Islamic teaching or Islamic worldview is the Islamic economic institution which will guide the market and government. So the function of Islamic teaching here is to give a kind of guidance, kind of counsels, kind of rules, so that the market would be more disciplined and government also would be more disciplined. So from this perspective, we have what we call the concept of Islamic economics. So if we want to put it into a symbol, probably you can see these three sector or three dimensions of Islamic economics. So the top one is the Islamic teaching, and the below one you have the market and government. Right now, the Islamic teaching, will guide the market, will put certain rule and regulation and discipline to the market, and Islamic teaching also will guide government. Will guide government, of course. So this is the role of the Islamic teaching. While market and government still interacting. But again, there is a third element here. Now let's see the role of the Islamic teaching on the market side. Yeah, on the market side, just to give you an idea or example. Now in the market, we have various type of markets. We have good markets, we have labor markets, we have financial market. Of course, yeah, this if we're going to discuss it, will be very detailed. Yeah. Now in the good market, for example, yeah, in the good market, we are talking about productions and consumption of goods. Now, under the guidance of the Islamic teaching, yeah, so the production of goods and services should only be limited to the halal and the beneficial one, not the production of the harmful things, the harmful to the society, for example. Although it would add to the profit, but if it is harmful to the society, this should not be produced. Now, of course, in Islamic teaching, we have the concept of halal, for example. Yeah, the concept of what we call legally acceptable, okay, by the Islamic teaching. Okay, so under the Islamic economics, yeah, the production should only produce, okay, the halal thing. Or in the Jewish economy, for example, you have the kosher things. Yeah, so this is one aspect. Yeah. Now, if we go to the labor market, for example, we should consider the labor from his humanity. He is human being. Okay, he is not only the commodity. Nowadays, we consider labor is just as a commodity. Yeah, but from the Islamic point of view, labor is not merely a commodity. Labor is also a human being, which needs to be respected. Yeah, so there must be cooperations, of course, not exploitations. Yeah, so this is some of the values, yeah, in Islamic economics. Now, if you go to the financial market, of course, yeah, the financial market is the most important market probably. Yeah, in fact, the volumes, yeah, of money pouring in the financial market is much bigger, okay, than in the goods market or in the labor market. Now we know that in the financial market, yeah, if we talk about the stock market or derivatives, yeah, these are mostly based on the speculative behavior. Now, under the Islamic finance, we try, okay, to avoid this speculative behavior. Yeah, avoiding speculation, avoiding gambling, yeah, and also avoiding what we call the riba, yeah, or the interest, okay, financial dealing. But of course, the riba and interest, these are not exactly two equal things. Yeah, there is riba without interest, and there is interest without riba. In fact, I have published a paper, yeah, on this. If anybody would like, okay, to watch, to have a view on this, probably you can contact me, and then I can share, okay, my paper. And this paper is luckily published under the Scopus, yeah, inshallah. Now, this is part of the issues in the financial market. Yeah. So you see, Islamic economics, of course, have its own view on this financial market dealing. Yeah, we know this financial market nowadays is heading toward what we call the financialization. What is financialization? Financialization is basically, yeah, where, okay, the economic activities has been geared, okay, toward financial activities only, to the extent that the component of GDP, yeah, is getting less and less contribution from the real economy. It is more from the financial, yeah, aspect. Now, in the financialization, you see, in our economy, the purpose of business is to get profit. If you can easily get profit through the financial trading, why you should bother yourself to involve in the real economy? Why you have to extract, for example, oil from the ground? Why you have to plant? Yeah. Why you have to have real economic activities? It is very easy, okay, to get profit or to get money just sitting, okay, behind the computer or robot, in which within a second or within a minute you can collect a lot of profit. Imagine the farmer, for example, cultivating the land, for months, for example, and the result is nothing, okay, compared to doing financial trading. Now, if all people are doing, okay, this thing, nobody will do the real economic activities. But unfortunately, this is actually the trend, in our economic system, what we call the process of financialization. Okay. Now, another problem in the financial market, as I mentioned already here, is what we call the financial instability. Of course, it has been touched by Professor Hyman Sminsky in his financial instability hypothesis. Basically, the stability is unstable. Why? Because when we experience the stability, everybody, okay, will become relaxed. Government will deregulate. Okay, bank will give easy loan. And then people will borrow money recklessly, and this will lead into the instability. So this is basically, in short, what we call the financial instability hypothesis developed by Professor Hyman Minsky. And then another thing is, through our financial market, the problem of the financial crisis. In 2008, 2009, we just experienced this financial crisis due to subprime debt. This is basically in the financial market. So always we experience financial crisis, even without this pandemic, even without the exogenous factor. From the indigenous factor, we always experience this financial crisis. This is basically the fact. So under all this situation, we need more regulations, not deregulations. Because the more you deregulate the market will become free, and then these are the results. Now, of course, Islamic economics has been contributing, at least in certain area. For example, we have Islamic banking, we have Islamic finance, we have Islamic insurance. You see, so these are some part of the contribution, okay, to give alternative, okay, to the banking system, to the financial system, right? So of course you have been familiar, okay, with Islamic banking. Now Islamic banking is not something strange or something alien. Even the Western countries, Islamic banking and finance has been taught in various universities, not only in Muslim countries, but including, of course, in the Western countries. And we have also what we call the Islamic social finance being developed under the concept of waqf, or the concept of awqaf. You see, if you read, for example, the history of Islamic civilizations, this waqf institution was the backbone of the Islamic economy at the time. Now this issue of waqf, or the pious endowment, is being revived in Islamic economy. So waqf is basically a kind of donation done by the rich, because they are influenced by the saying of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu. When a man dies, so all his deed will cease, will stop, except three things. So one of the things is what we call the Sadaqah Jariyah. Sadaqah Jariyah is basically the perpetual donations, okay, or the donation whose benefit is perpetual. So this is basically the more or less the definition of waqf. For example, if you are rich, and you make, okay, your land, okay, to build the school or to build a hospital. Now, according to the Islamic belief, if you die, okay, the rewards, okay, still being credited to you as long as, okay, the benefits, yeah, of that land is perpetual, yeah, and being utilized by the people. So this is from the Islamic belief. So we call it awqaf. All right. In fact, the University of Al-Azhar, for example, was established by the Waqf. So the land, yeah, the salary of the teachers, yeah, the what we call it, the students are free, yeah. So this is one of the Islamic economic institutions, and now this awqaf is being revived in the Islamic world. Now, there is the Islamic economics issue on the market. Now let's see the Islamic economic issue on the government. Yeah, what is the role of the Islamic economics on the government? Yeah, we say that, yeah, Islamic economy is three-sector economics in which the Islamic teaching will guide market and will also guide the government. Now let's see, okay, the role of Islamic economics in guiding, okay, the government. Yeah, so there is a general principle in Sharia. They say that tasarruful imam ala ra'iyah manutun maslahah. Yeah, it simply means the policy or activity of government toward the people should be aimed to provide public benefit. Yeah. So I hope the mic should be switched off. Okay, so this is one of the principles in Sharia, in Islamic law, yeah, giving guidance to government. Tasarruful imam ala ra'iyah manutun bil maslahah. So every policy, every activity of government must be aimed, yeah, for providing public benefit, yeah, for providing goodness, okay, to the people, yeah. Of course, this is the general guidance, okay, the general principle, but there are also specific Islamic teaching which will help the government to achieve favorable economic outcomes. Now, I just want to highlight, yeah, one of those teaching, and this teaching we call it zakat. Zakat. What is zakat? Zakat is actually one of the principle of Islamicity of a person. You see, when a person is a Muslim, a person must pray, for example. A person must fast during the Ramadan. A person must go to Makkah to do pilgrimage if he is able. Now, another one, a person must give zakat. Yeah, the person must give zakat. This is part of the, yeah, what we call the alternative Islam. However, zakat has its economic significance. Yeah, let's see zakat from the economic point of view. Now, zakat is a kind of tax. It is not a tax. It is a kind of tax which is imposed on the rich to be distributed to the poor section of the society. Yeah, so this is basically part of the Islamic teaching. So if you are rich, if you are wealthy, it is compulsory upon you to help, okay, the poor by giving some part of your wealth, okay, to the poor. Otherwise, your Islamicity is not complete. This is according to the Islamic teaching. So you have to give. So in your wealth, in your property, there is a right of others. So we don't own 100% of our property. Some part of our property belongs, okay, to the poor. So it is compulsory for Muslim, okay, to give, yeah, his zakat. But again, the government can play its own role, okay, in collecting or imposing this zakat. Yeah. All right. Now, this concept of zakat is like the concept of government transfer in macroeconomics or public finance. I just want to make a comparison. I just to make a comparative analysis between the zakat and the concept of government transfer, okay, in macroeconomics. Yeah, and some countries like Malaysia or Indonesia have been integrating zakat and taxation under the fiscal policy. Yeah, so basically zakat can be integrated, yeah, into fiscal policy. Now let's make a comparison, okay, between this zakat and what we call the government transfer. Now, what is government transfer? Or sometimes we call it transfer payment. Yeah, in economics, sometimes we call it transfer payment. Transfer payment is basically a redistribution of income and wealth by means of government making a payment to people without goods or services being received in return. So it is basically like a donation from the government. Yeah, it is a gift from the government. So government basically is giving money directly to the people without the people have to exchange for their goods or services in return. Now, this transfer payment is there in economics. Yeah, if we learn macroeconomics or if we learn public finance, yeah, we'll find this discussion of what we call the transfer payment. Yeah, of course, how the money can be transferred from the government. These are some examples of the transfer payment. For example, like cash transfer, social security benefits. Now, what are the social security benefits? Like, for example, unemployment benefit, old age and disability benefit, sickness and maternity benefit. You see, not every people can contribute to the economy, for example. The old people, for example, they cannot contribute anymore to the economy. Okay, so if they don't have income, so the society is was compulsory to help them. Yeah, the disabled, for example, they cannot contribute to the economy. The sick people, yeah, or there was a single mother, for example, yeah, whoever. So we have some poor section of the society. We need to be given a kind of financial security. Now, this transfer payment can function for that purpose. Now, the good thing about the transfer payment from the macroeconomic analysis is we have what we call the multiplier of the transfer payment. Now, in Keynesian economics, of course, we learn that the transfer payment multiplier is basically multiplied by aggregate demand. Yeah, and this will increase when there is an increase in the transfer payment. You see, we have the analysis of marginal propensity to consume, marginal propensity to save. Yeah, so yeah, this transfer payment will have the multiplier effect in the macroeconomics. Now, let's see, yeah, which countries, for example, have been implementing this transfer payment. Of course, many countries, but I just want to highlight one country, which is United States of America. Yeah, United States of America. The government of the United States of America has provided $2 trillion for the COVID. So you can read this news from this link. Yeah, you can imagine $2 trillion. This is very big money. Okay, by government for the people, and these are some of the benefits that the U.S. people would receive. From this fund. Yeah, so some of these funds are directly paid to the individual. For example, single American would receive $1,200. Married couple would get $2,400. Parents who see parents would see $500 or will get $500 for each child under 17. So if you have 3 child, you and your wife will get $2,400, and each of the child would get 500. So this is a kind of help from the government. This is what we call the transfer payment. Yeah, without they themselves give to the government. This is just simply donation. All right. Of course, we know that U.S. has an exceptionalism. U.S. can print its own money without the fear of inflationary risk. Yeah, of course, this is this United, but the issue is, here how the government is doing a transfer payment to help the people during this COVID-19 problem. All right, now let's make a comparison between the zakat, which is coming from the Islamic financial institution, and the transfer payment in a brief comparison. Yeah. We know that zakat is a kind of transfer payment. Why? Because it is collected by the government and then distribute to the people. All right. So from this point of view, zakat is a kind of transfer payment. But zakat has a different in its source. Yeah, the source of zakat is basically not from the government budget. Yeah, so the transfer payment is derived from the taxation. Actually, we know, yeah, transfer payment in the normal economy, yeah, is derived from the taxation or from the government budget. Okay, including the public debt. Yeah, so when government is borrowing or when government is taxing, so the revenue collected by government, yeah, will be used. Some of it will be used to make the transfer payment. Yeah, but zakat is, yeah, it is like tax, but it is not exactly the same. Now you can see the role of zakat in the third sector. Yeah, it has a similarity with government, yeah, but it has also similarity with the market. Yeah, so that's why I call zakat as a special institution of public finance. By the way, my dissertation, my PhD dissertation is on the Islamic public finance, which is a study of a very old book written by one of the Muslim scholar about 1,200 years ago. Dr. Shat already mentioned, in my in the introductions, I did a book called Kitabul Amwal by Abu Ubaid Al-Qasim ibn Salam. So he has this book. So I call the zakat as a special institution of public finance. So the source of zakat is basically from the people. Yeah, it is from the people. Yeah, it is from the Islamic teaching. Yeah, it is not from the government. Even if we live without government, yeah, if we have to exercise our Islamic teaching, if we have a poor neighbor, for example, even if there is no government, we have still to give our zakah to him. So the source of zakah is basically from the Islamic teaching, plus of course government would administer this collection and distribution of zakah. Yeah, and then another difference of transfer payment and zakah is the aim of taxation is more on the institutional development. All right, to provide the public goods like roads or straight line, yeah, or public park and so on and so forth. But the aim of zakat is more on the personal, what we call it, personal gift. So it is for the people directly. It's not for the institution, but it is for the people. It's exactly like the transfer payment. So this is basically in brief, although basically we can talk much about the what we call it, comparison, between zakat and transfer payment. Okay, now let me give you an example of how zakat can be used as a fiscal tool. Yeah, as a fiscal tool. You see, yeah, as I mentioned here, zakat is like a transfer payment, and transfer payment is part of the fiscal tool. Now let's see zakat as a fiscal tool. Yeah. Now, one good example of this implementation is Malaysia. So Malaysia is the only country which has integrated zakat and tax. Yeah. So I used to live in Malaysia for quite some time, for 24 years. I was there, and I was also paying tax and paying zakat in Malaysia. So one of the most interesting aspects of this integration of zakat and tax in Malaysia is that if you are supposed to pay income tax, so this income tax payment can be replaced by your zakat. All right, let's say your income tax is $500 per year. Yeah, let's say your income tax is $500 per year. Now if you pay zakat $500, then your income tax will be exempted. Yeah, so the Muslim there would not be double tax. So the government is basically can integrate these two. Now, interestingly, the empirical evidence of this, there is no kind of trade-off between the revenue of zakat and the revenue of tax. Yeah, since Muslims, for example, are paying zakat, it does not decrease the revenue of tax. Yeah, it's very strange, right? Yeah, it's like counterintuitive, but the fact is not so. Why? Because we can explain this phenomena by analyzing the motives. Yeah, because in zakah is part of the arkanul Islam, part of the Islamic teaching. Muslim must pay zakah. So there is what we call it. There is a small incentive to avoid payment of zakah. Why? Because it's part of your iman. It is part of your Islam. It is between you and God. To pay zakah. It is like prayer, for example, like salah, for example. We have to pray. Whether people see it or whether you are appreciated or not, we have to pray. Now, zakat is the same thing. Yeah, if you are a Muslim, you have to pay zakat. So the motivation is different from paying tax. Of course, in paying tax, you want to avoid, but in zakat, you are encouraged, you are motivated, to pay zakat because it's part of your Islamicity and because of that. Yeah. So the Muslim there, they are paying zakat and also paying tax. Yeah. If, for example, their amount of zakat is not up to the income tax, they will pay tax. So they will not avoid. Yeah, they will not avoid zakat and they will not avoid taxations. All right. Now in Malaysia, we say that zakah can replace tax. This is what we call the tax rebates. Yeah. So I already informed you there is empirical evidence tax revenue is not reduced by the zakat payment. So there is no trade-off. Or another example is from Indonesia, for example. Yeah, one of the biggest Muslim countries in the world. Indonesia is now also implementing the zakat. Yeah, although it's not up to the level of Malaysia in which zakat can replace tax. Now Indonesia, the process still what we call the tax relief, in which the zakat can reduce your tax liability. So it is like your expenses. Yeah, it is like your expenses. Yeah, so you can see here the two Muslim countries, Malaysia and Indonesia, have been implementing zakat as part of their fiscal policy. Yeah, so basically Muslim countries can benefit from the teaching of Islam in their macroeconomic policies by probably looking at the transfer payment, or if, for example, you have the most Muslim population in your country, then the government can probably introduce this zakat to the Muslim people, right? Now, as the conclusion, I've been talking for almost 1 hour. I don't want to talk any longer, probably because some other panel would join our discussions. So as a conclusion, basically Islamic economics offers certain solution on the economic problems, including on the aspect of public finance. COVID-19 give us a valuable lessons that during the normal situation, we have to take care of and heal and cure our economy. You see, when we are under normal situations, we have to take care of our economy. For example, don't increase your level of debt. Try to be a balanced budget, for example. Yeah. So try to improve your economy. Yeah. By not letting the economic disease go unchecked. Yeah. Now everybody is facing the problem. Yeah. So when we have this kind of problem, so it is more difficult for us, to solve when during the normal situation we are not doing our job. So the world economy needs to be more regulated rather than deregulated. Yeah, it should be more disciplined. Yeah, so the Islamic regulation from the Islamic teaching can be reconsidered. Yeah, if it can benefit humanity as a whole. So Islamic economic has been offering Islamic banking, Islamic finance, Islamic insurance, Islamic social finance. Yeah, and now some Muslim countries also implementing the zakat for the transfer payment. Probably we can learn some lesson from this economics perspective. Yeah, with that I should conclude my presentation. Wallahu a'lam bishawab. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon. Thank you very much. Yeah, I offer again, okay, to Dr. Chan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ugi. I had means I can see a lot of questions have come in the chat box. But today we have two more special remarks before we conclude the session formally. So next, I'm going to invite Dr. Imran. So if there is any question, let's have for Dr. Ugi, and then we can open the floor to our Dr. Kawaljit, who is available here.
Dr. Shad, Dr. Shad,
Professor Ravindra, you can ask.
Can I ask the question?
Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes, Dr. or Professor Hisham, thank you very much for the wonderful and very analytical presentation on the Islamic economics and the Islamic finance. So my question is that the world is undergoing with the current pandemic, and which is having unprecedented challenges across the globe. You mentioned about the public finances. You mentioned about macroeconomic factors. Now the point is that how the Islamic economics can try to provide some kind of practical solutions for the current problems, because our public finances are strained. It is going to be strained more and more. The public debt has been steadily increasing. As the previous speakers mentioned, that we got probably $253 trillion of public debt across the world. Now, under these circumstances, whether it is Malaysia or Oman or India, whatever countries we talk about, I know that you mentioned that we need to regulate our debts. We shouldn't take more debts, but now the situation is forcing us to take debts. How the Islamic economics can provide some practical solutions for the current problem? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Professor. Okay. Now, one of the what we call it public finance instrument which being developed, okay, by Islamic finance, we call it sukuk. Yeah. Now sukuk is not bond, because bond is purely based on debt. Now this sukuk is basically a contribution of Islamic finance, right? Of course, we have stock, yeah, we have equity, and we have debt, okay, like bonds. But sukuk is not like stock, neither like bond. It is basically the hybrid between stock and bond. Now sukuk can be issued, okay, by government. We have sovereign sukuk. Many countries basically issuing sovereign sukuk. Yeah, Indonesia, Malaysia, Bahrain. Yeah, and we have also corporate sukuk. Now, what is sukuk? Now, sukuk is what we call it is a kind of financial instrument or financial securities who's backed by the real asset and project. So it is like partnership, yeah, but partnership in a very limited way. For example, if government is issuing sukuk for 5 years based on certain project, so the investors are basically the buyers of the sukuk for that kind of project. All right. So it is based on the project basis. Yeah, it is based on the project basis. Yeah, and there are many types of sukuk. Yeah, there are many types of sukuk. Of course, we have this project basis sukuk. We have the trade sukuk. In Bahrain, for example, the government of Bahrain is issuing short-term sukuk based on the aluminium product, because Bahrain is one of the what we call it producer of aluminium. So in a short term, before that aluminium being sold, the government will issue sukuk in order to get finance. All right. So this is basically part of the this sukuk can be used as the alternative, okay, to debt. Yeah, alternative, okay, to bond. Why? Because this sukuk is not 100% debt. All right. This is not borrowing. This is not based on interest. It is based on the profitability of the project. It is based on the profitability of the trading. So we have given you some example of zakah, for example, Islamic banking and finance. Now we are giving you another example. How, for example, one what we call it financial Islamic financial instrument can be reconsidered, yeah, for the future solution. That is my brief answer. Thank you.
Sir, we have other questions as well, but we have a speaker waiting. So let's take the speaker,
Mr. Shah?
Dr. Yes, sir.
No, let it go. I just wanted to add one point to Mr. Ugi's point. I think
you want,
Islamic version actually helps in a way, in two ways. Very important that it doesn't allow for the interest, and which is the unproductive burden on the capitalism society. And therefore, it is very important that if some funds can be siphoned in terms of without interest bearing things, then I think it would be a very encouraging input to the small entrepreneurs and very small entrepreneurs and groups like SHG and all. Second thing is that I strongly feel, and in my presentation I have discussed this, that feeding the lowest income strata of the society, where the relative demand is very much inelastic and constant, consistent, and therefore if zakat money reaches to those people, to the people who actually deserved it, would build in a lot of demand, which is a response to the present crisis, I believe. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add
Thank you so much.
comment from Professor Imran. It's a very good point. You see, zakat. Now, in our economics, we learn about what we call the utility function, what we call the marginal utility, right? Now, you see, you can imagine the benefit or the marginal utility experienced by the poor when they receive zakat. You see, for the rich, for example, okay, 10 US dollar is nothing, right? But for the poor, 10 US dollar is something. Why? Because his income is so little. Additional 10 US dollar for him or for them is a great, marginal utility for them. This will motivate and encourage them, okay, to work, okay, to survive, and to what we call this, to minimize, okay, the probability of crime, okay, from their section. So thank you very much, Professor Imran, for your additional what we call it explanation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It has been a real honor to listen to the great professor who have been the backbone of this program so far, Professor Imran Salim, Professor Ravindra, Dr. Ugi, of course, and all of them are speaking today on the same platform, same forum. I believe that our participants must be enjoying. So let's move to the next presentation today. Let me introduce you Dr. Kawaljit Kaur, a person who is very senior in the field of education and education for the last 32 years. And she has been active in various fora since a long time. She has 8 books published. She has 4 awards of national international levels. She has worked on many projects. She has published 52 papers, 90 conferences. She has delivered so many keynote addresses, and she's about to hit a half century in terms of the sessions she has chaired. Right now, she is working as associate professor in Sri Guru Gobind Singh College, Chandigarh, and she is also the executive member of Indian Economic Association. So, without any further ado, let's have Professor Kawaljit Kaur. Professor Kawaljit, your slide is with me, so I'll be running on your behalf. So, over to you, ma'am. Okay, looks like there is some connectivity issue from the ma'am side. So we have another presenter on health and food security. We have Professor Imran Mehboob, and if I tell you about him, he is the only medical practitioner we have among all the resource persons. So I thought that it will be better for us that if I can bring somebody from the health sector. He's sitting right next to me actually. He has been very concerned for taking this session, and he didn't want to miss anything, and he did not want to take any risk, so he came all the way to my house, and he said that we will be conducting a session from here. So he has more than 13 years of teaching in the area of health sciences, and he is involved in teaching medical and the dental students. And he is, if I briefly take you to his profile, he's a medical doctor. He has done MBBS. He has done MPhil in psychophysiology and physiologist, and he is also a scholar in the area of physiology. So without any further ado, I'll be clicking on his slides, so you all can refer his slides. He has put a beautiful picture on the first page itself. And without any further ado, I will just switch off my camera and I will give the session to Professor Imran. Okay, we are muting them all. Okay. So without any further ado, we will be moving to Professor Imran now. Dr. Imran.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and hi to everyone. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. One thing I would like to correct, that I'm not the professor. I'm the medical doctor and Dr. Imran Mehboob. I am ex-assistant professor from the United Medical and Dental College from Pakistan. So let's move on to our topic, which is health and nutrition security related to the COVID-19 situation. So WHO has identified this culprit virus for the global pandemic as COVID-19, and it belongs to the family of coronavirus, as mentioned by the another doctor before me, and it's a modified strain of SARS virus. That is why it is also called as SARS-CoV-2. And as it is started in 2019 as a new strain of the corona family, it is identified as COVID-19, or it is also called as novel COVID-19 virus. So till now, when I was planning to make this presentation, till now the WHO has confirmed till the June 22nd, 2020, there are nearly 8.8 million people around the world have been affected, and there are nearly 5.25% death among those people. Now, normally so much has been talked about this disease or epidemic, so everyone is quite aware of the symptoms. I'm not going to waste your time in. Is it okay? Okay. Sorry for the disruption. So I'm not going to waste your time for repeating those symptoms. Because of the current global lockdown, the fear of personal health and food crisis is rising. So in a report, World Bank has cited that about the upcoming crisis or the fears related to the food chain supply or the food crisis related to this COVID-19 lockdown situation. And these crises or the fears include the labor shortage due to lockdown situation, restriction of food processing, and the loss of income and lack of remittance. United Nations World Food Programme has also talked about the risks of the acute food insecurity, which could affect nearly 265 million population by the end of 2020. Now, how to deal with these risks? When we are talking about the dealing with the insecurity, there are risks along with dealing with these insecurities, as the World Bank has also mentioned about the risks which are related with dealing with this insecurity, as the logistics and the distribution may contain the transmission of disease, the risk of the transmission of disease, and also social distancing may not be possible in some of the cases. The extreme weather changes and the current locust plagues in some areas of the world are another kind of threat which has impacted the the crops productions, and this may result in an increase in the increase in the cost in the food chain distribution. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, which is known as FAO, is seeking for a 110 million support for food security in the most vulnerable regions of the world. It is planning to focus on the supporting countries and to boost social protection programs, especially to generate and maintain the cash flow. It will also focus on keeping the food supply chain moving as well as on the growth of the food production. It is also planning to support the humanitarian activities to continue the essential food supply in the vulnerable areas. Now, WHO has given some recommendations when we come to the food industry, and these recommendations may include some principles to formulate a proper food safety management system for avoiding the safety risks and the contamination of the food. These include the good hygiene practice by the food industry, and it is the most important one. And this includes the regular cleaning and sanitation of the work environment, dividing the work environment into different zones according to their functions and their importance. And there should be a proper quality control in supply of goods, storage, distribution, and transport of the products. And in the last, there should be a very important point which is related toward the focus of this work staff personal hygiene and fitness. When we talk about the staff hygiene and practices, it includes the proper and frequent hand washing with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, the frequent use of hand sanitizers with more than 60% alcohol, maintaining at least 1 meter distance between the workers, and to have a good respiratory hygiene. This may include using a mask to cover the face during the work, and also to cover mouth and the noses while coughing and sneezing, especially by using a disposable tissue, which can be disposed immediately, and then the hands could be washed afterwards. It also includes the frequent cleaning and disinfection of the work surfaces and the touch points such as the door handles, and the use of disposable gloves during the work, which should be changed frequently, and there should be a phase of hand washing during every change of the disposable gloves. And the most importantly, all the workers, it is highly recommended that all the workers must avoid any close contact with a person showing the symptoms of respiratory illness, such as coughing and sneezing, etc. Now let's see what are the WHO guidelines for the risk of transmission of disease through a food, because there are so many myths and facts generated around us, and we could hear them in case of rumors, news, and talks and media reports like that. So WHO has claimed that, remember that, WHO has claimed that it is highly unlikely to transmit COVID-19 from food or food packaging. As COVID-19 is a respiratory illness and the primary transmission routes are person-to-person transmission or a direct contact with the respiratory droplets which are generated by an infected person through cough and sneeze. Virus can also be transmitted through fomites, and the fomites are objects or any kind of material which can carry infections. It may include clothes or furniture or utensils and so on. So virus can remain viable outside the body in the dry out fluid for up to 72 hours on the plastic and stainless steel products, for up to 4 hours on copper, for up to 24 hours on cardboard. And if we compare this with other viruses, this is a very small period. When we compare it with HIV, HIV takes 5 to 6 days to remain on a surface, even in a dry diet fluid outside the body. Hepatitis B virus, it takes for about 1 week, and hepatitis C virus, it takes about 6 weeks to vanish out from a dried out fluid or from a surface. So this potential risk, I'm saying a potential risk because WHO has already denied that it cannot be transferred from the food or any food packaging. So this potential risk, if the virus can be present on the packaging, it can be easily avoided by proper hand washing. So what about the food? As WHO has already claimed and mentioned that there is no evidence till date for the transmission of COVID-19 via food or food packaging, and this virus cannot multiply in the food because this virus requires a live cell to use its energy for multiplication, such as the cells of a live animal. So WHO has recommended that there is no need to disinfect the food packaging material as there can be a hazard of chemical contamination of food. So all we have to do is to proper hand washing after handling the food packages, and most importantly, washing the hands before eating. So the WHO guidelines are there for consumers if you are going for a shopping of grocery or any material in the stores or supermarkets or grocery stores. These are most similar to what we are observing by the Ministry of Health in Oman. These includes maintaining a safe physical distance of at least 1 to 2 meters while queuing before entering the store or while shopping in the store. Frequent sanitization of the handles of every trolley or basket or moving material for collecting the goods after every use. And the sanitization of hands before entering the store. There should be a practice of good coughing and sneezing etiquettes, which we have mentioned before. And a person should avoid touching the mouth, nose, or eyes during all the time while in the store. And also to minimize the direct contact or hand contact with the food, it is advisable to use tongs or serving utensils or disposable gloves, whichever is feasible. And it is also advisable to use contactless payment as much as possible. In the last, let's see the guidelines of the Ministry of Health of Oman, as we are living in Oman and we have to focus on this as well. So the guidelines from the MOH Oman are supporting to that of the guidelines of WHO. These are avoiding the direct contact with an animal, live or dead, avoiding the direct contact with anyone with the symptoms of a cold or respiratory infection, covering the nose and mouth when in sneezing or coughing with the tissue or flexed elbow, washing the hands with soap and water and use of alcohol-based hand sanitizers frequently, and making sure that animal products are well cooked before eating them. So this was a little review about the concerns related to the food and health security in COVID-19 situation. Thank you.
If any questions are there with Dr. Imran, because he is the only medical practitioner that we have. We of course had a lot of questions on economy and other things, but those are people, because I was receiving some messages on WhatsApp and people had some serious concern.
Yes, Dr. Saad asked one question. Hello.
I'm handing over to you. I'll just mention one thing. Dr. Imran is also the chair of food manufacturing unit of University of Buremi. So he is a blend of a person who has a command over the food as well as the health. So if you have any queries with Dr. Imran, you can ask here. So
Yes, I got one very relevant question to the medical doctor. Dr. Imran, I'm Dr. R.K. Bharti from Agra, India. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. And my question
Good afternoon.
is that WHO has recently said that asymptomatic persons cannot infect others. And after that, it has refuted the statement. And again, some office bearers of WHO have made this statement that asymptomatic infected persons cannot infect others. What is your take on this? What is your conclusion?
Sir,
Because we are still confused. We are still confused. So I want your opinion on this.
sir, not only you, but the world is confused as well. The world is with you. That is a very controversial statement by WHO, and that is why you can see that I have not included those kind of recommendations or guidelines which has been controversial in all that time. And I was avoiding them because, you know, if you are a medical doctor, I'm supposed you are a medical doctor as well. No. So if you are not, if any one of the medical doctors is there who can easily understand that even in asymptomatic conditions, virus can be transmitted from a person to another person, and it is this asymptomatic period is called as incubation period. During the incubation period is what? It is the entry point of a virus or a bacteria or any organism into the body till the symptoms are arrived, or you can see any kind of symptom. So that period is called as incubation period. During that incubation period, this virus, bacteria, any kind of organisms inside your body multiply, and it can be transmitted through the respiratory droplets, body fluids, or certain other things which I'm not mentioning because it's a very long topic to the other person. That's why in some areas they have received, WHO has received and claims that the asymptomatic persons are not transmitting the disease, but in other areas they have received the information, then they revert to the previous one, then again they receive, no, there is nothing. So this play of you can say the cat and mouse is going on. I hope I have given the answer to you.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Imran.
Yeah. Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Sir, I'm honored to answer you. He has to unmute himself. Sir, you have to unmute yourself. Sir, unmute yourself, sir.
Yeah.
Professor.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Imran, for that wonderful presentation about the medical side of the story. My question is that you see the superpowers, the so-called developed countries, they spend a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars they spent. They build the nuclear power that can destroy the existing world 9 times. Whereas, in order to face the current situation like what we are facing today, they don't have ventilators. There are many countries in the world, they don't even have one ventilator. One ventilator costs about $52,000. They can't afford to have that. So what is your take on that? I mean, how do you see this scenario? One side we gone too extreme to build the nuclear weapons to destroy the world, whereas the other side to construct to promote the welfare of the human beings, we couldn't able to spend much money. That is applicable to everybody, irrespective of our stature and our economic situations. That is point number one. Point number two, quickly, that we read a lot about this pandemic and then the food that we can eat so that our immune power can be increased. But you as a medical doctor, I would like to hear your side of the story. What are the foodstuffs that you recommend to people like us that can promote our immune power? Thank you.
Sir, first of all, I should thank you for these two beautiful questions because they include all the myths which has been gathering around and rumoring around us, and everyone is sharing those kind of myths and without knowing that are their myths or the facts to others. So it is the another reason for creating a chaos. So one of the question you have asked about the the developed countries, I should avoid the answer to that because I'm not a politician. So about them, I'm a doctor. I cannot say anything why they are doing it and what to do to deal with them, because already, if you have seen 1 month ago, the WHO has already, made a strike kind of, or you can say a protest kind of statement against the United States of America, because they have stopped an aid towards the research for producing vaccination to the WHO. Again, it was a topic, so that's why I'm avoiding it completely. I'm not a politician. Related to the other thing, first thing is that when we are talking about, there are very shortage of ventilators. So what to do? Thing is that the most important thing is the education and literacy and awareness. People should be COVID literate. I'm not talking about the normal literacy rate. I'm talking about they should be COVID literate or the quarantine literate, because most of the time when we use this word quarantine, everyone gets afraid. They think that this looks like a stigma, a dilemma to everyone. So we should tell them it's nothing. Quarantine means that we are containing ourselves in a situation that we cannot transmit, or we should not transmit any kind of the virus or organisms to our loved ones, not just to others, even to our family members. So we are just trying to keep ourselves contained for that period of time in which the virus life cycle has been gone away. That's it, first of all. Second, if you see a person is very healthy and he does not have chronic diseases, and if his health is good and he's young, don't talk about the young, because now WHO, according to the WHO, the young person is up to 65 years old. And if you ask me, I start to feel old now, just right now. So if you are having a very good health, so nothing to worry about. Only you have to do is to maintain that your respiratory system should not be blocked by a sputum. You keep it flowing, you keep it thin by using the mucolytic medicines which we take in the common flu, keeping our body temperature as much as normal possible by taking antipyretic, or keeping ourselves in an environment which is like AC if it is possible, if it is feasible. And the third thing is that eating the healthy food which can boost up the immunity. And then for the immunity, there are so many myths, like using the turmeric, ginger, honey. Of course, these are immunity boosters because they have the cofactors and co-vitamins which are working like, helping our metabolic rate, helping our metabolic enzymes to work properly. This means the immunity. If our enzyme system, if our metabolism is working properly, it is producing the enough amount of the antibodies and material which can fight with the virus. So there is no harm of eating those foods if you can afford them or you can take them. I hope I'm clear. Thank you, sir.
There are some questions on the chat box. Does diet?
Chat box. I told you I'm becoming old.
Yes. The diet.
Okay, may I ask, Dr. Shah?
Yes, Professor Arshad.
Yes. My question is, the rate of mortality because of this COVID-19, novel COVID-19, varies from one country to the other. Is it only because of the availability of the health infrastructure? It has to do with the genetic makeup of the people in different societies.
Sir, I didn't get your answer because your voice was breaking up.
Okay. My question is, the mortality rate because of this COVID-19 infection varies from society to society, from country to country. These differential mortality rate.
I got it.
Okay.
Let me give you an answer. When we talk about tuberculosis, when it was emerging as just like an epidemic in different countries, for example, the developing countries and the countries where the population is very much vast. So what was the reason? The reason was not the disease, but that if you are transmitting a disease to a person, it comes back to you. It's just like the third law of Newton, action as reaction. And when we talk about the flu, our body has produced enough antibodies to fight with the flu, but every year we are getting flu. Isn't it right or wrong? So the problem till now is that there is no vaccine, and the infectivity of the virus is very fast. Because of this fast infectivity, so if you are transmitting to another person, it can come back to you. By the those countries where the population rate is very high, it is very important to avoid these kind of situations. That is why the lockdown and everything has been created, not just because of the complication of the disease. Every disease has some complication, but when you see the mortality rate is still less than the many other diseases. But the fast infectivity, the fast infection rate, quick infection rate, and remittance of disease quickly, it is the very big factor for that. And when you are talking about, if I'm scratching my hand, and if I keep scratching, it will start producing an ulcer on my hand as well. This is a small scratch. So if you keep repeating taking the disease again and again, which is not having any cure till now, it can cause some problems. So we are trying to avoid those risks. And the risks are more important than creating a real disaster, because the prevention is better than cure. I hope I have answered the question.
So there are some other questions also. For example, does a diet low in carbs have any effect against COVID? COVID shows to be severe on people with high sugar.
Yes, diet low in carb for diabetic people can surely a benefit. Otherwise, there is no bad, proven effect for that.
Then he's also asking, are there any anomalies on the distribution of fatalities worldwide?
So these fatalities are depending upon your genetics, your living lifestyle, your environment, your weather, your food, what type of food you are taking, your healthy habits or unhealthy habits, depends on these kind of factors, which are the factors for, similarly we have factors for diabetes, we have factors for hypertension, and they will remain the factors.
I think we can continue the session.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm back to my original place, conducting the session. Sorry, we had to facilitate our resource persons also, as and when required. So I was with Professor Dr. Imran since morning, and we were discussing that what we can have today, because he being a medical doctor, he wanted to speak something which none of the resource persons have covered. So we were receiving some of the queries from the participants that in your brochure you have talked about health, food security, but those points are not properly covered. So for me that I bring somebody who is an expert, and I found Dr. Imran who agreed on the last moment. Thank you so much, Dr. Imran, for your wonderful presentation, and I hope many of your queries is resolved now. Now we have Dr. Kawaljeet back. So Kawaljeet, ma'am, if you can briefly cover the aspects which you wanted to cover, because I believe we are already running out short of time, and we have so many resource persons today. We have Professor Ravindrana, we have Dr. Mario Curatolo. For information of all the participants here, as an extension to our program, Dr. Mario is going to conduct a program on 29. So briefly, Dr. Mario, if you can just invite everyone, because you have been waiting since after.
Yeah, thank
It
you.
is going to be a continuation of our program actually, and most of the resource persons shared the session here. They will be resourcing there as well. Dr. Mario.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Shat. My name is Dr. Mario Curatolo. I'm the CEO of MBC, Management Business Consultants in Switzerland. Now, my firm will be conducting on the 29th a webinar with the title Crushing Coronavirus to Restore Confidence and Subside Uncertainty. In this webinar, what we'll concentrate on is in trying to examine the role that confidence has on consumer spending, and how the whole environment of uncertainty created by the coronavirus has exacerbated this confidence level. Therefore, by aiming to control or tackle the coronavirus, then we can restore confidence and move towards a reopening of the economy in the safest terms. Anyway, I would like to invite everybody to join this webinar tomorrow at 1 o'clock Swiss time. The details and the link to it is you can refer to Dr. Shad, and he will provide you with all the details so that you can join us on Monday for this webinar. And I look forward to seeing you and welcoming your questions, participation. We have three speakers from different countries. So hopefully it should be a very entertaining and international session. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Chat.
Thank you so much. I have received the links from Dr. Martha, and I'll be sharing with all the people. Madam, sorry, we have kept you waiting. Sorry for all the trouble. All to you, ma'am. Should I start your PPT, or would like to continue just in a speech form? Your voice is still not audible. Your voice is not audible. We cannot hear you. Your voice is not coming, ma'am. You have all the support from our side, but your voice is not coming. You are unmuted also.
I think it is a problem from your side, ma'am. Because
Yes. Yes, her system is not supporting it. Anyway,
Dr. Kanwaljit, can you remove your hand free and speak direct? I think it will be done, if you don't mind.
I
unplug it from your laptop.
Thank you, Sir Kashif. Thank you so much.
And remove it from your laptop also, not from your ears only.
no, I think it's a problem in the laptop itself.
Yeah, there is some other issue.
It is not supporting.
So I think she can continue with Dr. Mario later on 29th, if Dr. Mario doesn't mind.
Dr. Mario is open, and he has extended his invitation to all of us. Ma'am, if you can listen to us, if you are hearing us, just speak something if we can hear you. Otherwise, we'll hand over to the discussion session. Dr. Ugi is around. Dr. Ugi, activate your camera. Dr. Ugi, there are some questions for Dr. Ugi. If you can activate your camera. Okay, thanks so much. Dr. Ugi, I'll be reading some questions for you because I was trying to take note of some of the questions which were coming to me, and I feel it's better for me that I project it here. So let me do this. So the question will appear on your screen, means all the participant screen. So there are two questions asked by Professor Gabriel Stein from UK, and his question is related to what your presentation was all about. These questions, Dr. Ugi?
Yeah, can you read just the questions? We are told that Islamic economics entails only beneficial productions, a benevolent view of labor, avoidance, gambling, usury, etc. I do not want to go into discussion of this particular. Rather, I would ask, is there any economic system that does not, in fact, aim to produce only beneficial production? that claim to see labor as humanity instead of commodity. In other words, at this point, actually a difference between Islamic economics and other systems to an extent that justifies calling this a special branch. Well, of course, it's basically leads to our philosophy. Yeah, for example, like halal, for example. All right, the halal is only this concept of halal is only in Islam or in Judaism. All right. Now, probably this halal concept. Remember, this halal concept is not only related, okay, to the slaughtering. This halal concept is very, what we call it, is very wide, including the interest, for example. It's not halal because there are two types of halal. Halal is one is referring to the essence itself, and then another one is the production. All right. For example, like interest, yeah, or usury, it's not halal from the Islamic point of view. Now the what we call it, the products, okay, like meat or food, yeah, because when you say halal, yeah, it's already taking care of the cleanliness aspect. All right. And for example, the way, okay, you slaughter it. It has to be on certain way, certain, you have to preserve, okay, something. So under this issue, there are specific what we call it, there are specific issue, not only related, okay, to what we call normal things, but it is more than the normal one. Okay, so in terms of the regulation, it is more stringent, we can say that. Yeah, although that our regulation is fine, but I think in Islamic or in Jewish society, it is more stringent than that. Now, regarding the treatment of labor, of course, you see, for example, we have different philosophy between capitalism and Marxism, for example, in looking at the labor. Right?
Dr. Ogi, you have to unmute yourself. I have muted all.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Shaks. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, regarding the labor, it is basically related to the philosophy. If you make a comparison between capitalist economy and, let's say, Marxist economy, of course, Marxist economy has its own philosophy, okay, toward labor. Yeah. In fact, the Marxists are accusing capitalism as exploiting, okay, the labor. Of course, this one is philosophy, basically. Yeah, this is related to the philosophy. Yeah. Now you see the labor. The fact is that the labor is now the most vulnerable section of the economy compared to capitalism, for example. Why? Because we tend, okay, to view labor as commodity. So this is, okay, related to the philosophy. Now, in terms of the right? For example, why not giving the labor not only wage, not only a fixed wage, but they must also be given like a share, yeah, of the firm, for example, of the corporations. All right. So that, for example, there must be in terms of the remunerations. Now, in our economy, labor just receive, okay, the fixed, what we call it, fixed remunerations. Whether, okay, the company is making great profits or small profit, okay, their income is just fixed. Why not devise in such a way that, okay, their remuneration is also, what we call it, proportional, okay, to the income of the company. So this is again another angle, okay, to see that we should not treat, okay, labor merely as a commodity, but as human being, as our fellow. Yeah, that means the partnership, yeah, is probably more being emphasized, okay, rather than simply a fixed payment. So probably this is my short answer to the first question. Now the second question, Why do you say that USA can print its own money without the fear of inflationary risk? This is most certainly not correct. In fact, you can expect quite substantial inflation in the United States. Now, of course, we know that the dollar, US dollar, is the most needed and demanded currency. All right, more than 60% of the US dollar is circulating outside the US. All right. Now, of course, US has this leverage in order to print, okay, their money, yeah, using what we call the quantitative easing now. All right. In fact, now there is an idea in the United States to propose what we call the MMT, the modern monetary theory, just print money. All right. Now, of course, if you print money without being accompanied by the productivity, you will have inflation. But US has a kind of exceptionalism. Why? Because the US dollar is always demanded by all countries. Always, all the central banks was keeping of the US dollar for their reserve. So whenever the US printing money, it will be distributed, okay, to the world. So the impact of what we call it inflation, yeah, will be less compared to other countries, okay, compared to Venezuela, yeah, recently, for example, yeah, in 2019, for example, Venezuela is having problem, yeah, of these inflations. So relatively, I'm talking about relative issue here, right? But of course, US also has a lot of debt. In fact, the most debted country in the world is the United States. All right. So United States, what we call it, debt level is more than 100% debt GDP ratio. Yeah. So the more you print money, the debt level would be increased, of course. But in terms of the inflation, because the US dollar is spread all over the world, so the impact is not as bad as other countries when they are printing money. So that's my brief answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. So now the next question is by Professor Arshad. And
all right,
is asking the question.
let me read. Yeah, let me read the questions. The problem with religious economic theories and principles are that they are largely dependent on moral principles. As the definition of morality varies from person to person and society to society, it's very difficult to make them effective. Of course, I agree. But in Islam, remember, we have ethics, we have morality, and we have rule. Like, for example, interest. It is not a matter of ethics. It is a matter of rule. Like halal. It is not a matter of ethics. All right. It is a matter of ruling. Yeah. So, of course, this Islamic economy is very specific to solve the Muslim problem. But normally, when we solve our problem, this benefit can go to humanity as well. All right. For example, when we produce Islamic banking, yeah, Islamic finance. So the response is not from Muslim countries. So other countries can get benefit as well. If we have a halal product, for example, yeah, so the benefit is not only for Muslim, yeah, but for others as well. So this is basically the issue. So I don't want to impose about this. Just take it as ideas. If it is a good idea, why not implement? All right, because after all, whenever the good thing coming from wherever, yeah, if it's good for humanity, why not? Yeah. So I think in Islam there are two parts. Yes, you have morality, which is very subjective measure, but we have also rule, and we have fixed rule, yeah, in Islam. For example, zakah is a fixed rule, and interest we have to avoid. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now the next question is coming from Dr. Vijay Vallabh, and his question, if you can read it will be better.
Yeah. Has really tried to fit this novel Islamic economic model to get rid of recent economic problems emerged due to the outbreak pandemic. Can this model be applied all over the world, as now world has turned into unipolar? As you know, China has also adopted the capitalistic mode. Please clarify. I'm enlightened to hear the speech and his human approach for taking economic decision. Well, now China, you see, China is a bit different. China now developing a special economic model. It is basically combining between the communism and capitalism. This is what we call the state capitalism. You see, now in capitalism, normally it is the what we call it, the corporation, the multinational corporation, which run the business, then the backbone the economy. But under the Chinese regime, this is government. You can imagine, this is government as a whole, or a country as a whole, become corporations. So it is basically a combination of state capitalism, a combination of capitalism and communism, which is a new model. Yeah, which is a new model. Now, the difference between capitalism, communism, and Islamic economy is that now in Islamic economics we consider the spiritual aspect. Okay, capitalism and communism, they are only talking about the material aspect. Of course, economy is basically a science which talk about the material well-being. All right, we agree on these definitions. So material aspect is very important for human being. But remember, human being is not only matter. Human being is not only material. So in our philosophy, human being is made of clay, made of matter, and also made of the spirit of God. Yeah, we need morality, we need spirituality. So we should not trade off, between our material aspect and the spiritual aspect. So under the Islamic economics, we try to balance up, between the material aspect and the spiritual aspect. All right. Now, of course, it is very difficult now to prove, this existence of Islamic economy. But if you go back to the history, remember Islam was able, to contribute to the world civilization, for more than 1,000 years. The Islamic civilization was basically on the scene of the world. So it means that there was an economic system at the time. Yeah. So now actually the Muslim economists are trying, to dig again the what we call it the resources, yeah, and the tradition, obviously, in order to revive, to contribute it into the modern what we call it, to the modern situations. Now the proof is already very clear. We have Islamic banking, we have Islamic finance, we have zakah, we have Islamic social finance. Now if these are good for humanity, why not? Yeah, so we are not trying to impose certain values, but please take some lesson from this great religion. Thank you.
Okay, so the next question, which is coming from Dr. Anthony, and his question is, will zakat support promotion of employment for poor, or simply rich is helping poor?
Well, now this is very important questions. Okay, one of the purpose of zakah is to shift the poor people to become zakat payer. All right, so this is not simply what we call it. This is not simply giving donation for the sake of consumption for short period. No, even one of the purposes of zakah is to bring them from the state of zakat recipient to the zakat payer. Now, this money of zakah can be used for education. Okay, can be used to help the business, yeah, of the poor people. So if we teach them through the fund of zakah, certain skill, certain business, what we call it, practices, for example, yeah, teaching them how to help their employment. This fund of zakah can be used for that purpose. Yeah, so this is not simply a transfer, like donations, but it can be used for productive purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I believe this is the final question that we can have for today, and then I will open the floor for the great personalities who are sitting here. So this Professor R.K. Bharti is asking, he is actually asking me to express his gratitude to you, convey his regards to you. and he is asking you, do you think that cooperative economic enterprise like Dragon Cooperative Corporation of Spain are more compatible with Islamic economic than that with the capitalist enterprise?
Yes, exactly. Actually, the spirit of economic is cooperation. Yeah, what we call the musyarakah. Yeah, musyarakah means more on the cooperation, more on the participation. Okay, rather than that. Okay, now the capitalist economic is basically is debt-based economy. It is based on the leverage. But Islamic economy is basically more on the equity, more on the participation, more on the profit and loss sharing. So the spirit is basically spirit of cooperation. So if you gain, I will gain. If you lost, I should also lose. So this is basically the spirit. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now we have come to the concluding session, and as requested by Professor Kawaljeet, I will just run her slides in the background, but I will open the floor to the great professors who are sitting here, so we can have a thorough discussion and we can briefly decide what has been the takeaway. If we have to really propose it to any of the ministerial or the policy platforms, what can be the takeaway from this session? So I will start with Professor Imran Salim. You happen to be the first speaker for our program. So if you can briefly throw some light on 3-4 areas which can become a serious solution for the policymakers, society. And then after Professor Imran Salim, I come to Professor Ravindra Rana. So Professor Ravindra, be tuned.
Well, in fact, I expected I expected to be the last today, but anyway, as you say, see, I'm sorry about my throat and all. I'm not well today. So basically, last 4 days rigorous interaction with the academicians and the resource person, I really appreciate that we had been able to facilitate so much of learning, at least for me. I'm sure that I had been able to learn so many things. I had been almost a silent listener to the very, very lucid presentations by all the resource persons, and I'm thankful. I think the most vital elementary essentiality which COVID-19 crisis has put before the humanity is basically that it is the humanity, it is the gross national happiness which relatively has been ignored across the world. It is not about GDP, it is not about other things. What we really need is the human being to be happy. And when we say human being to be happy means enough to live, and of course a comfortable health, education, all the basic needs of humanity that one deserves. So I think that is one most vital point which COVID-19 has taught the humanity. In future, I think we must understand that every human being deserves the minimum bare in terms of health, in terms of education, in terms of prosperity. Then I strongly feel that what Dr. Rana has very meticulously talked about is the income equalities across the world, and which I believe, I also assert that point, that inequalities across the world is a troubleshooter for the whole world as such. If we don't consider the prosperity into different facets of life, perhaps the economy as a whole is less likely to continue to grow, because we are the type of connectivity that we have, whether online or offline, is commendable. And we really need to understand that anywhere, if the prosperity is taking place, it is going to contribute and actually building up with the multiplier effect of this growth and facilities. Then another very important point, I believe, which Professor Chaudhary has very rightly pointed out, that education sector is the one which really need to be addressed very meticulously. There are two observations of mine into this sector, that I believe, number one, there is almost a hype about online teaching, which I believe should not be overemphasized. See, I'm blocked at my home, having nothing to do or having nothing to do much. Therefore, maybe I'm enjoying. But over the period of time, I have started missing the sensory of the presence of my students and the type of interaction that I used to have with them. So that has been ignored. Second thing is, but of course, the best part of this account is that we had been able to, really immerse the resources. It's a fantastic thing. It's a fantastic thing that I had the opportunity to interact and listen. Professor Rena, Professor Chaudhary, Professor Ugi, Professor Kamaljeet, Professor Anna. See, otherwise perhaps it would have not been possible. Maybe the developed world have this access, but we didn't have. And fortunately, I'll say, I'm sorry to use this word in this scenario of COVID, but I must appreciate that this is one thing that we need to capitalize and understand, that even in future when the COVID is over, we must have this convergence and we can build up. And I strongly feel that this learning is extremely fantastic for developing the possibilities of very good research options. I'm sure maybe I had not been able to really come up to that level, but now suppose I have a connectivity to Professor Rena. I was checking his profile and I was thoroughly impressed. I congratulate him and would really love to work with him. If anything, we can be worked upon. So the point is that there is a lot of connectivity in the area of research, and of course other things. Then I also feel that the Islamic model that Ugi has presented is a fantastic approach, and the world to learn from this. I strongly believe that, see, there are certain very small finer points which need to be looked at. Whether China is adopting this, whether America is adopting this, or any model for that purpose, doesn't mean that the model is not up to the mark. What we really need to do is that we need to understand the essentials of that model. For instance, it was a question that whether zakat is just a help or a help in terms of employment. And I believe one of the basic tenets of zakat is that you have to ensure that who gets the zakat is the real deserving one. So of course, initially it is help, but then it, as a second step, it recommends that you convert, as Ugi has rightly pointed out, you convert the man from a recipient of zakat to giver of zakat. So that's a fantastic idea, and we really need to think over it. Now here, from my own discussion, I would just like to flag one very pertinent point, Shad, which I strongly feel. I have discussed in my very first slide that there had been different crises around the world, that of Great Depression, 30s, and so on. But the difference between the other crisis and this COVID crisis, the most vital difference is that in all the previous cases, there was a mismanagement of demand and supply chain. There was a falter on both the sides, and the fault in one actually contributed to leading to the fault in another one. Supply was not there, demand was not there, and therefore supply was interrupted, and therefore people have been shunned out, and therefore lesser demand and then lesser supply, and so on. It formed a vicious circle. In this case of COVID crisis, so far it is only the demand which is affected, not the supply side. Relatively, till the moment supply side is intact, ready to join back to the economic activities of the society. And therefore, I strongly recommend that all the nations should really contribute to build in on the demand. Once the supply side get affected and there starts an official retrenchment because of loss of demand. See, so far the loss of employment is because of COVID, and therefore people have a feeling that once COVID is over, we'll get back to the job. They have not lost confidence, but if they will be shunned out for economic reasons, that we don't have job and therefore you go. This will put in a lot of negative pressure on the demand, and therefore this will get into cascading effect. So I strongly recommend that all the nations should make it a point that they should start spending. The governments which have stopped the capital investment must think twice, not only twice but 100 times, because stopping the capital investments would be a serious problem for every economy of the world. Governments may raise debts, that is not an issue, but if the productivity itself stops, then perhaps the whole world will be ruined. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Now we'll quickly to Professor Rana. Your final thoughts, sir. Thank you so much, Professor Imran, for accepting our invitation of marking your presence today here. And we understand that you are suffering from a sore throat, and we hope, and you are in our prayers, we hope that you will recover soon. Professor Rana, over to you now.
Well, Dr. Shad Khan, thank you very much. First of all, I must congratulate the University of Buraimi to organizing this wonderful webinar series for the past few days. It is indeed a great opportunity for the participants, for the speakers to learn from each other. That indeed your university bring these think tanks together to share the knowledge, to share the wisdom, to share different insights in different angles. I think so taking from the first day of the first speaker, Professor Imran Salim, I mean, he highlighted lots of pertinent issues, not only the commerce and trade, but the debt and various other challenges that global economy is facing. And then we also attended the second day. Dr. Anna, she highlighted about the gross national happiness. So that is also one of the important aspects. Even Professor Salim also mentioned about that right now. And then we have the other side. We have Professor Chowdhury, the Vice Chancellor of Prime Asia University from Bangladesh. They also highlighted on various aspects pertaining to higher education. What is the post-COVID and what is the pre-COVID and after the existing COVID situation, how to deal with this teaching and learning experiences. And he also suggested lots of different modes like hybrid teaching and so on and so forth. And today, we do have three speakers, Professor Kawaljeet Kaur and Dr. Imran and Dr. Ugi. And they also, different angles, they try to contribute a lot. That is indeed an exciting experience for me, and to interact, to know more about you and more about everyone here. And so that is absolutely, it is definitely a good experience for me. And see, I always believe that, Ubuntu philosophy of Africa, and a person is made of with the support of other people. I mean, if you are not there, I am not here. And so we always support each other. I mean, this is how the intellectual collaborations, we learn from each other. So therefore, the person is made as a human being because of the support of other human beings. So that is very important. And so definitely, I take all these wonderful experiences that I have for the past 4 days, and I learned a lot. It's an education side, probably innovation side. Also learned from health side and food security side, and commerce and trade and business and economy side. So these are some of my experiences. And in a nutshell, I just would like to congratulate you as the coordinator of this conference. Without you, we couldn't have come under this umbrella. And we really enjoyed having this kind of collaboration, and I hope that we will continue our relationships in the near future. That's what I would like to be optimistic about. But thank you very much for the opportunity again, Dr. Shah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Today, actually, I made a special request to all the office bearers of University of Buraimi that today allow me to propose a vote of thanks, because there are so many people who have been whose name has not been mentioned, and today I take the opportunity of proposing a vote of thanks. I will start with a simple story how this idea of this webinar was conceived. We are working on a very small scale. And since we all were undergoing lockdown, we started organizing webinars for our own staff members. And Dr. Mario Curatolo, he has been one of the first person that we had for our staff-based webinars. And then there was a need. And we found, initially I was scared when we started with the webinar series, whether people will be joining us during the vacations or not. And with the kind of response that we received, it was really motivating and encouraging. Uh, we are functioning in College of Business. We received participants from College of Engineering, College of Law, College of Sciences, College of Foundation Studies. So we received participants from all the colleges of University of Buraimi. And slowly, when we expanded ourselves, we found that even non-teaching staffs, they also started showing their interest in these type of webinar. And that was the reason, if you look into our theme, we covered all the 5 colleges through our theme, because we wanted to have an inclusive one. The big thank goes to my dean, Dr. Ibrahim Rashid Al Shamsi, who has been very welcoming in receiving the ideas. I am the chair of Staff Professional Development Affiliation and Linkages Committee, but he is the leader who was actually leading everyone behind the show. The second credit goes to the Vice Chancellor of University of Buraimi, Dr. Abood. You will be surprised to know that at what time this entire program was proposed and at what time it was approved. I proposed this event at 11 o'clock, 11 p.m., and I received a confirmation mail by 2 a.m. So within 3 hours, this whole proposal, it went, means at night, the office bearers, they did not wait for the next day also to come. And within the whole night, 2 a.m., I received a WhatsApp message by Dr. Ibrahim that the webinar has been approved. And then Dr. Abood, the Vice Chancellor of University of Buraimi, he involved all the important officials who can be instrumental in designing this one, right? Starting from the IT section to the marketing section. The posters were designed by the marketing section, and ensure certificates will also be designed by the marketing section. Then my bigger thanks goes to all the staff members of University of Buraimi from all the colleges. People say that how you were able to attract 1,237 registrations within 24 hours from 27 countries. My answer is simple. All the faculty members and staff members, they shared this information to their home countries. We are functioning in a university where 20 plus nationalities, and we are blessed. Otherwise, I don't have links and contacts in many other nations. It was the faculty members and staff members of University of Buraimi, irrespective of their colleges, irrespective of their department, they shared this information, and the response was marvelous. Means we receive every day, we are having a representation. Then my own committee, the Staff Professional Development and Affiliation Committee, you will be seeing Mr. Mudassir Mahmood is there. He is online right now. Mr. Mudassir Mahmood has been behind the scenes, though I am in front of you, but he has been managing everything behind the scene. Mr. Azan is also one of the committee members, and he is also working behind the scene. Miss Mariam has been taking care of public relations, and Dr. Prabha was also handling it behind the scenes. She is secretary of the committee. So these are the people. Thanks goes to Miss Amira. She is secretary of College of Business. These are some of the names which I was able to take, but there are many people I cannot take here, but they all are associated directly or indirectly, and it is actually a UOB event in reality. My big thanks to all these people. Greater thanks go to all of you, all the resource persons, starting from Professor Imran Salim. He has, I believe, he has never said no to me whenever I have approached him for resourcing any of the event or program. He has never said no to me. Professor Ravindra Rana is here. He has also been very welcoming. I remember our late night chats, talking over phone for hours and discussing how we can make the event successful and identifying ways and methods of having some collaboration. Dr. Anna Rosengren, means I was having series of test sessions with her. I don't know what happened on that day that our session failed, but we had series of test sessions, and she was very welcoming, and it was initially this whole idea was conceived by her. Then my big thank you goes to Professor Abdul Hannan Chaudhary, the Vice Chancellor of Prime Asia University, Madam Kanwaljit Kaur, Dr. Ugi, who volunteered himself to be speaking today, who has been ever supporting me all the time. So these are some of the people who were the unsung heroes of this professional development program. And my biggest thanks goes to all the participants. Still 110 people are there. We have overshot this event by more than 1 hour now. But my big thank you goes to all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's all what I have to say. And I hope we were able to bring some change to your lives. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Saad. Thank you very much. You are
Thank you,
a very
Dr.
wonderful,
Shah.
very dynamic.
Thank you, Dr. San.
Well, Dr.
Thank
Shah,
you,
Please
Dr.
we meet
Shah.
soon, Dr. Saad.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. Thank you
Thank you,
very much.
Dr. San.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
Thank
much,
you
Dr.
very
Dr.
much.
Shah.
Shah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Roli. Thank you so much, Dr. Suresh.
Thank you,
Thank you so
sir.
much.
Thank you so much.
So I'm putting this recording off now. Sorry, ma'am, we
Thank you,
couldn't.
Dr. Shah.
Otherwise, people would have enjoyed it. If there was any mistake or anything, any shortfall from our side, I would like to use this platform to apologize and regret all those things. But at the end, we call it a closure and call it a day for this event. Thank you so much for all of you for coming here. Thank you so much. Wish you all
Thank
the
you.
best. And
Thank you very much, Shah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Shah.
so much.
thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.